All right, and we should be on air. So it is 8:33, and we are looking at the agenda for the board meeting this evening. We should do the whole call to order thing. So 8:33, I call this meeting to order. Yay! The first thing we need to do is make sure that we've established quorum, so let's go through and do a quick roll call. Aurora, this is sort of our first broadcast session, and so normally what I do is I have the secretary go through the roll call. You and I haven't really talked about that being our format, so if you're comfortable with that, we can move forward. If not, I can go ahead and take it too.
I don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. Do I start high to low?
Yeah, what I normally do is we just start sort of Northreach 1, Northreach 2, Astral Winds, Loop and Moon, and go in the order that way.
Okay, Northreach 1.
Present.
Northreach 2, present. Astral Winds.
Nor would I persist against so many of my better instincts in this correspondence.
Astral Winds.
I find it challenging.
She may be hung. I'm going to go ahead and re-add her.
Present. Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Hello?
Okay, Loop and Moon.
So the conversation finally
Present.
Frozen Coast.
Present.
Icefire Bay is missing. Roar Grove.
Present.
Icefire Bay.
Did I miss Ravenstone?
Yes, that one. Ravenstone.
Present.
Okay, so we have established quorum. Yay! The first order of business is to approve the previous board meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? If not, what we can do, and we've done this previously, is we can have that vote online on the forums to approve those minutes. So everyone has a chance to review them before we approve. So I guess is there any discussion, if anybody has a preference one way or the other?
I have not had a chance to review them.
Okay, so then I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve we vote to approve the minutes on the forums at a later date. So we need someone to second that.
I second that.
And any discussion? No? We'll go ahead and call the question. And Northreach 1, yes. Northreach 2?
Yes.
Astral Winds?
Yes.
Loop and Moon?
Yes.
Frozen Coast?
Yes.
Ravenstone?
Yes.
Icefire Bay is not present. Aurora Grove?
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed, motion passes. So we will post a vote on the forums to approve the minutes from the previous meeting after this meeting when everybody's had a chance to review those minutes. And I apologize, in the future I will be more on top of reminding us to review those minutes before the next meeting. Our next order of business is to approve the agenda as it's posted on the forums. Were there any additions or comments on the agenda as it exists?
Did you make sure to add the Loop and Moon and Ravenstone
I did.
discussion? Okay.
Yep, that's on there.
Then I'm good.
All right. Then I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the agenda as it currently exists on the forums.
I second.
Any discussion? We'll go ahead and call the question. Lupa Moon, wow. Northreach 1, yes. Northreach 2,
Yes.
Astral Winds.
Yes.
Lupa Moon.
Yes.
Frozen Coast,
Yes.
Ravenstone.
Yes.
Icefire Bay is not present. Aurora Grove.
Vote yes.
All right, all in favor, none opposed, motion passes. So we can move through the agenda as it currently exists. So the first order of old business is bylaws admin manual progress. And Danica had brought up a concern that was raised about some sections being missing in the bylaws. So I figured that's probably something we should just chat about while we're all here, right? So I was pulling the bylaws up. And Danica, which sections did you say were missing?
Just a second. So in the admin manual, it references the bylaws, and it's Article 2, Section 7 and Section 8 are not on the bylaws that I'm looking at, and that's the latest one that was posted. They jump straight to Article 3.
Right. So that's probably just a reference issue. What area of the admin manual do you see that in?
That would be A2-4. Section 2, point 4.
Okay.
And
yeah.
actually, there are actually multiple parts in the admin manual. I've only gotten through Section 3. I haven't even had a chance to read the whole thing yet because I had so many questions. That it actually mentions Section 7 and Section 8 multiple times in different places in the admin manual, and they're not there at all.
Yeah, I bet that's a referencing issue, but can you tell me again which section of the admin manual? I have that pulled up now, sorry.
That's okay. It's Section 2-4, membership,
Yep.
and it says that in the bylaws 7, 8, and 8 are supposed to detail what
Right.
constitutes kicking someone out.
Right. Article 2, Section 8, right there. Yeah, so that looks like Article 2, Section 6 is supposed to be the reference since that's terminating membership. So I bet we have a whole reference issue. Okay, so I'm going to make an action item to go through and relook at all of those references and make sure that we're not, like off by 2 sections in every single reference, because that makes them a lot less, usable. But yeah, I'm sure that's what that is, since this is referencing membership termination, and Section 6 is regarding membership termination. So, it looks like Samantha's going to join us. Her connected here. Okay. Okay, so that may or may not answer the rest of your questions that you had, though. If it's a referencing issue or if there's actually sections that are missing. There shouldn't be any sections missing, but it's possible that something got dropped through an edit or something like that. Did you want to go into other questions that you had now, or did you want to do those offline, or?
Well, I
I'm fine with
feel
whatever.
I'm not sure exactly what this meeting, when we talk about the corpora, because it says we're going to talk about the corpora, but it didn't say what specifically.
Right.
I was reading through it, and there's a lot of places where it's not as clear as I think it should be in order for people to understand and be able to vote properly.
Right. So
yeah.
So and then that is very true. I mean, this is a group of people who are working on this, and we may not have come up with all of the best wording yet, for sure. So that's feedback that's super useful. Ideally, we can sort of funnel that feedback through forums and through the bylaws and admin manual Q&A, and so my intention of having it on the board of directors agenda here was so that we can make sure that the board of directors is up to speed on sort of where we're at in the process. But I certainly don't have a problem talking about it as a board, since it's a very important document as board of directors, or two documents. So I'm open to either if you guys want to dive into it. Although I think that that's also well, I guess we're broadcast live, so people can be as involved as they want to, right?
I did have one question that sticks out really far as us as the board of directors, and the corpora stating that certain documents and voting processes will be submitted to the board of directors, but then they will be voted on in the council. Now, when you say council, is that the board or is that the Council of Crowns? And if it's not being submitted to the Council of Crowns, how is the council voting on it if it's submitted to the board of directors? And why are we not voting on it, etc.?
Yeah. No, and that's a big part of the alignment issues that we have in our current structure, is that the Council of Crowns is actually the body that does all the work and makes all the decisions, but the board of directors is the body that has all of the liability and is legally responsible for all of the decisions that the Council of Crowns makes. The Council of Crowns, in our current structure, has the power to make the decisions, but they have no legal liability for those decisions. So any legal documents that you present to an organization typically need to be approved by your legal body of government, which is usually your board of directors. In the typical sort of Amtgard setup, we give our boards usually very little actual authority to do anything. Like if you look at our current corpora structure, there's no way for the board to remove sort of an officer, say a monarch, who is doing anything illegal, like stealing money or misrepresenting the organization in a manner that would cause us to lose our nonprofit status or anything like that. The board has zero power to resolve that situation, but if legal action were to be taken against the organization, the people on the board would be the ones who are legally responsible for it. That's kind of messed up. I mean, so we should probably know that as the people currently on the board, that that's the situation we're in.
That's extremely frightening.
It is a little bit, yep. It's not a very legally sound setup. And the reason that it's worked for so long within Amtgard is that typically Amtgard chapters don't have very much in the way of assets. So what are you going to do? I mean, you're not going to go after a park who has $50 in a cash box riding around in somebody's trunk, right? Like, what are you going to get out of that? Not a lot. But as we are accumulating more assets as an organization and looking to be handling larger amounts of money, there's some real assets at stake, and it becomes a lot more attractive for someone to pursue litigation that could have very real consequences on the people who are volunteering to run our organization. And one of the things that sort of came to light as we were looking at all of this is we've talked about directors and officers insurance in the past. Typically, the way that that's designed is it covers your board of directors, because your board is the group of people who are making the decisions, who are responsible for the decisions that they're making, and then need to be covered by not through negligence, but just through error. You know, like just they tried their best, but they just didn't know what they were doing, right? And that's where your directors and officers insurance covers them. In our situation, we have a whole bunch of officers who aren't directors, which is okay, you know, but they also, those officers don't report to directors who are legally responsible for the organization, which is a very abnormal structure. And so there was a little bit of ambiguity of if we got the directors and officers insurance, would it cover decisions that were made by a monarch who doesn't report at all to the board for anything ever? I mean, an insurance company, their job is to make sure they don't pay out a lot of money. That's what they do. And they take your money and they say, we're going to cover you, but oh, there was this loophole, and these officers don't actually report to any of your directors. So therefore, you know, we're not going to pay out on this claim. So there's some alignment issues with the current structure. And that's part of what we're trying to fix in the new bylaws and admin manual, is that the body that actually makes the decisions is the body that is legally responsible for those decisions. That was a really long...
On that note, I do have a question. Are you saying that you're getting rid of the board of directors and making the Council of Crowns to be the board of directors?
No, actually, the two bodies would still exist. The difference would be the board of directors and the Council of Crowns would be nearly the same group of people. The board of directors would have two additional people on it. We'd have the Northreach Prime Minister and the ex officio. And the ex officio would be the previous Northreach monarch. So the ex officio would only have the power to break ties. So they're not like a full-blown voting member, because they've already done their term in office, right? Really their purpose is to be a sort of a consultant, someone who offers continuity from one term to the next, who can say, oh, yeah, you know, when we ran across this same issue in my reign, this is how we handled it, this is how you get the information. They're sort of like your Gandalf. Like, I've done this before, let me lead you through the woods.
That actually does not sound good at all. I hate to throw that out there, but there's no checks and balances if you get rid of, because in a company, the person in charge, be it the monarch or the president or the CEO, they're in charge of running the company, and they have a person standing there in each section going, that's not legal, that's not legal. And if the monarch is so busy worrying about what's legal, they're going to not care as much about taking care of their park, per se. Where if you cut the board of directors down, who's going to be there to make sure the monarch is being a monarch to their park?
So right now, the monarchs are already doing this job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, they're already making the decisions for the organization. And what we're saying is not so much that they would be taking on sort of additional duties. They're already performing those duties. I mean, any of our monarchs should already be worrying about if what they're doing is legal or not. I mean, that's an important thing for somebody in a position of leadership and authority to be considering. Like, is what I'm doing within the bounds of what I am allowed to do, both within state statute and just, you know, regular law. So then what we're saying is that they now have, if they're making the decision and they choose willfully to make a decision that puts the organization at risk, that they then should be responsible for that choice. I mean, there's still room for error that happens, and that's why you have directors and officers insurance, is to cover us when an officer makes an honest mistake. Directors and officers insurance won't cover you if someone willfully chose to make a choice that was going to put the organization at risk. But there aren't a lot of extra duties that come along with being involved on the board of directors. I mean, if you look at our agenda, most of that is what we cover already in the Council of Crowns meetings. We're talking about the admin manual update. We're talking about the bank account changes. We're talking about audits. We're talking about difficulties that parks have internally. We're talking about any issues that would come up at certain events. So really, what we would be adding is sort of state paperwork. So the things that we don't really talk about as Council of Crowns is biennial reports, filing taxes, filing your change of officials reports with the state. And those are things that we don't talk about frequently as a board because they only come up when we're making board changes. And taxes is once a year, and the biennial report is every 2 years. So it's a very small subset of things that we have to talk about as a board that we don't already talk about as a Council of Crowns. So I think for me, I look at it as an alignment. The other thing that sometimes we talk about is the checks and balances, right? Which checks and balances are really important within any organization. You never want to set something up where somebody can just run roughshod across an organization and do whatever they want. That's a bad situation. Like, we don't ever want that to happen. But right now, we kind of have that. Like, right now, the Council of Crowns could say, hey guys, we're going to spend all this money, and it's a really bad idea, but we're going to do it anyways. And then the board they can't say anything about that, but they're legally responsible for that. So in all of this, the real balance and check in this is the membership. Because the monarchs can get together and say, we want to spend every single penny that Northreach has, right? Let's do it. But they don't have the authority to do that without first getting approval by the membership. The membership is always the other side to that. Like, your leadership has a very limited power to, within the bounds of the current corpora and within the proposed bounds of the drafts, anything over 10% of spending has to be approved by your populace. If your populace hasn't approved that, then you are doing it wrong, and you should be getting in trouble. And if you are a monarch, really the only recourse is that the membership then has to get together. They have to find out about it, right? Then they have to get together and they have to decide to remove you from office. The board has no power to resolve that situation. The board is powerless and can do nothing to resolve a situation of a sort of a runaway Council of Crowns. The membership has all of that authority, and that would remain. And from a personal standpoint, I think it is vital for the membership to have the ultimate power in any decision. Like, this organization doesn't belong to the officers, right? Like, the organization belongs to the members. We are a member-owned, member-run organization.
That's the way it should be. It's not always
I agree.
so.
And when it's not, we need to resolve that so that it is. I mean, I feel very, very strongly about that. And maybe that's just my personally how.
You lost her.
Oh no. Okay. She's the one running the conversation. I do believe she's the one controlling the broadcasting, so I suppose we're a little bit at a standstill until she joins us again. Either that or the vice president can take up the thread of it. Who's the vice president currently?
I am. I'm looking into getting her reinvited.
Who is the second in this conversation?
Lucian's the vice president of the board.
Oh, okay.
I'm just the one that takes notes.
I suppose it'd be one thing if we weren't in the middle of a conversation.
That's true. If we were in a position we could just move to the next item, that would be one thing, but we were just discussing this, so I don't want to... we don't want to move on.
Middle of a conversation.
That's true. If we were in a position we could just move to the next item, that would be one thing, but we were just discussing this, so I don't want to... we don't want to move on. Robert, I believe you have a bit of a lag going on, and you're not muted. That's true. If we were in a position we could just move to the next item, that would be one thing, but we were just discussing this, so I don't want to... we don't want to move on.
If Lucian did feel comfortable moving forward, you could table the topic of discussion for another meeting.
I suppose I'd be okay with that, but I do want to know what they intend to do with the board.
Yeah, no, we can totally do the motion thing to table this and come back to it. Let me pull up the agenda here.
The only problem I could foresee with trying to change to the next topic is the next topic is biennial reports, and I don't know what that is. So I'm not sure if Hadeland is the only one. I think Hadeland might be the only one with that information.
I know what it is. I don't have the information. Oh, look, she's back.
Woo!
Hi. I had to join as me instead of... Yeah, kind of. I don't actually have control of, like, this broadcast now. But...
Welcome back.
So what, this is just a rogue broadcast that's not going to stop now, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'll do that. So I'll figure that out, I guess, after the meeting. So, yay for learning new technology. Okay, sorry about that. I have no idea what happened, but we can continue on for now, I guess.